Teenage boy risks his life to save a baby from a burning building. When the baby's identity is revealed, it leaves everyone stunned. In the heart of Midtown, nestled among towering brick buildings, was an apartment complex that had seen better days. Its faded exterior whispered stories of countless lives lived within its walls, stories that would now bear witness to a moment of unimaginable bravery. 17-year-old Liam Turner was running late. His sneakers slapped against the rain-soaked pavement as he dashed toward home. The late autumn sky had dimmed early, its gray clouds pregnant with the promise of another storm. He was carrying groceries his mother had asked for, their weight pulling against his tired arms, when a sudden commotion brought him to a halt. The acrid smell of smoke curled through the air, followed by panicked shouts. Liam turned toward the noise and saw thick, black plumes unfurling from the third floor of the very building he'd passed moments ago. "Fire! Someone help!" a woman screamed, clutching her toddler as she stood barefoot on the sidewalk. Residents poured out of the building, their belongings clutched hastily to their chests. But the panic solidified into terror when a distraught man stumbled forward, gasping through tears. "My baby," he cried. "My son's still inside." Liam froze, heart pounding. The crowd murmured in horror, their feet rooted in place. Flames leapt hungrily from the windows, licking at the night like golden serpents. Every instinct told him to stay put, to let the firefighters, whose sirens wailed faintly in the distance, handle it. Yet, something within him surged forward. The man's tear-streaked face was seared into Liam's mind. Without a second thought, Liam dropped the groceries and sprinted toward the entrance. "Kid, don't," a bystander started, but his voice faded into the background. Inside, the air was heavy with heat and smoke. Liam dropped to his knees, crawling forward to keep below the worst of the fumes. He counted door numbers as he went, the panicked cries of tenants fleeing past him becoming disjointed echoes. When he reached the apartment in question, the door was ajar, revealing a room hazy with smoke. In the corner, cradled within a playpen, was a baby no older than a year. The infant's cries were shrill, piercing through the chaos. Liam didn't think. He pulled his hoodie over his nose and mouth, darted forward, and scooped the baby into his arms. The child's warmth startled him. He was a fragile, living thing against Liam's shaking chest. As he turned back, flames began consuming the doorway he'd come through. A beam fell with a deafening crash, blocking the exit entirely. Panic clawed at Liam's resolve, but he forced himself to focus. He scanned the room until he spotted the window, a narrow chance, but the only one left. Using his elbow, he smashed the glass. The sudden rush of cold air felt like salvation. He could see the growing crowd below, their faces a mix of horror and hope. "Here," he shouted. "I've got him." The firefighters had arrived, and ladders were being positioned. Time, however, was not on Liam's side. The heat behind him was blistering, and the baby's cries were weakening, his tiny body curling tighter against Liam. With a deep breath, Liam climbed onto the window ledge. The ladder was still inches away, the flames roaring just behind him. He gritted his teeth and made the leap. Strong hands caught him and the baby just as his foot slipped on the ladder rung. Together, they were pulled to safety amid a chorus of cheers and relieved sobs. The baby's father, unable to wait, rushed forward, taking the child from Liam's trembling arms. Tears streamed down his face as he hugged the boy tightly. "You saved my son," the man whispered, his voice breaking. Before Liam could respond, exhaustion took over, and he slumped against the pavement, the last thing he saw being the baby's bright eyes peeking over his father's shoulder. Liam awoke to the rhythmic beeping of a monitor. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air, and a dull ache settled in his chest. His eyes fluttered open, adjusting to the glaring lights of a hospital room. Beside him sat his mother, Sarah, her face lined with worry and relief. "Liam," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You scared me half to death. What were you thinking?" His voice came out hoarse. "There was a baby. I had to." Sarah cupped his face, her fingers trembling. "You're so brave," she said softly. But promise me you'll never do something so dangerous again. Before Liam could respond, the door creaked open, revealing a man and woman he recognized from the night before. The baby's parents. The mother held the infant, who was now swaddled in a pale blue blanket, his tiny fingers curling around the fabric. "May we come in?" the father asked. His voice was heavy with emotion. Liam nodded, attempting to sit up straighter. Sarah helped him adjust, her protective instincts kicking in as she eyed the couple warily. The father stepped forward first. He was tall, his frame still tense with the remnants of fear and gratitude. He extended a hand. "I'm Daniel Harper. This is my wife, Emily, and our son, Noah. You saved his life." The weight of their words pressed on Liam, but he managed a small smile. "I'm glad he's okay." Daniel hesitated, his hand lingering in the air as if unsure how to fully express his gratitude. Emily took a step closer, her wide, searching eyes locking onto Liam's. She didn't say anything, but the intensity of her gaze unsettled him. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice trembling, "for risking everything. You're our hero." Sarah, who had been quietly observing, cleared her throat. "He's always been like this," she said, pride evident despite her worry. "Too big a heart for his own good." Emily's lips parted, as if to say something, but Daniel interrupted, his voice cracking. "You saved our family. I don't know how we can ever repay you." "It's enough to see Noah safe," Liam replied. But even as he spoke, he noticed Emily's expression shifting. Something between awe and apprehension. It was as if she wanted to say more but held back. Later that day, after the Harpers left, Sarah noticed Liam deep in thought, staring at the ceiling. "You okay?" she asked, pulling her chair closer to his bedside. "Yeah," he replied, though his voice lacked conviction. "They were nice, but it was strange. The mom kept looking at me like she knew me." Sarah stiffened slightly but shrugged it off. "You've just been through a lot. People get emotional after something like this." Liam nodded, but a nagging feeling lingered. There was something in Emily Harper's eyes, a flicker of recognition he couldn't shake. Meanwhile, in the Harper household, the couple sat in their living room, Noah peacefully asleep in Emily's arms. Daniel paced the room, his movements restless. "Emily," he started, his voice low, "are you going to tell me what's on your mind? You've been distracted since the hospital." She hesitated, stroking Noah's tiny head. "I can't explain it," she whispered. "When I saw him, Liam, I felt like I'd seen him before." Daniel stopped pacing, his brow furrowing. "What are you saying?" Emily shook her head, as if trying to dismiss her own thoughts. "It's probably nothing. But his eyes, his face, there's something familiar about him." "Emily," Daniel said gently, sitting beside her, "this isn't like you to be so cryptic. What are you really thinking?" She looked at him, her voice trembling. "I need to know more about him." The hospital discharged Liam 2 days later, much to Sarah's relief. She insisted he rest at home, fussing over every move he made. Yet, despite her efforts to keep things lighthearted, a strange tension lingered in the air. Liam could sense it, but his mother's cheerful chatter kept him from asking too many questions. Back in the Harpers' upscale townhouse, Emily Harper sat at her desk, her fingers drumming anxiously against its polished surface. On the other end of the line, a private investigator she'd hired was finishing his report. Liam Turner, 17, the investigator said. Lives with his mother, Sarah Turner. No father listed on the birth certificate. They've lived in Midtown for most of his life. She works as a paralegal. Emily's hand tightened around the phone. "Anything unusual?" she asked, her voice low. "Not exactly. The mother seems devoted, though she keeps a low profile. No social media, no major legal troubles, nothing suspicious." But the investigator hesitated. "But what?" Emily's heartbeat quickened. Sarah Turner isn't her original name. She legally changed it about 18 years ago. Emily's breath caught. What was it before? Sarah Whitman. Emily froze, the name triggering a cascade of memories. It was impossible. It had to be a coincidence. "Thank you," she said, her voice tight. "Send me the full report." As she ended the call, her hands trembled. She stared at the baby monitor on her desk, the soft sounds of Noah's breathing filling the room. Emily's thoughts swirled, pulling her back to a time she tried desperately to forget. Meanwhile, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ever since his encounter with the Harpers, he'd noticed small changes in his mother's demeanor. She seemed preoccupied, and when he brought up the fire or the Harpers, she quickly changed the subject. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, Liam finally broke the silence. "Mom, is there something you're not telling me?" he asked, his fork pausing midair. Sarah blinked, startled. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You've been acting strange since I got out of the hospital. And Emily Harper. She looked at me like she knew me." "Does she?" Sarah's face paled. She busied herself with her plate, avoiding his gaze. "Liam, you're overthinking things. People react differently to trauma, that's all." "But, no," she said firmly, her voice uncharacteristically sharp. "Drop it, Liam." Her tone silenced him, but it didn't quell his curiosity. If anything, it made him more determined to uncover the truth. A few days later, Emily Harper stood at the doorway of the Turner apartment. She had debated coming for hours, but the need to see Liam and Sarah was too great to ignore. Sarah answered the door, her expression shifting from surprise to guardedness. "Mrs. Harper," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "What brings you here?" Emily hesitated before stepping inside. "I wanted to thank Liam again. And you, for raising such a brave young man." Sarah stiffened. "That's kind of you, but unnecessary. He was just doing what he thought was right." As they spoke, Liam emerged from his room, his face lighting up with curiosity. "Mrs. Harper," he said, "is everything okay?" Emily's gaze softened when she saw him. "Yes, Liam. I wanted to see you, to thank you again." Liam smiled, but before he could say more, Sarah interjected. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Harper. But as you can see, we're doing fine." The tension in her voice was unmistakable, and Emily didn't miss it. Still, she nodded graciously. "Of course, I didn't mean to intrude." As Emily left, she glanced over her shoulder, her eyes meeting Liam's for a fleeting moment. Something about that look made Sarah's stomach churn. The Turner apartment was quieter than usual. Liam sat at the kitchen table, his notebook open but untouched, his thoughts far from schoolwork. His mother had been pacing the small living room for over an hour, the sound of her footsteps filling the space. Finally, Liam couldn't take it anymore. "Mom," he said firmly, "what's going on?" Sarah froze mid-step, her shoulders tense. "Nothing, Liam," she replied, too quickly. "Everything's fine. You've been saying that for days." "But it's not fine," Liam pressed. "What are you hiding?" Sarah's gaze softened, but her lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, it seemed like she might finally tell him, but instead, she shook her head. "Liam, please trust me. Some things are better left in the past." Liam stared at her, frustration bubbling under his skin. "Fine," he muttered, standing up. "If you won't tell me, I'll figure it out myself." Sarah's face blanched. "Liam, don't," but he was already grabbing his jacket and heading for the door. At the Harper residence, Emily was sitting in the nursery, watching Noah sleep. Her husband, Daniel, entered quietly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Emily," he said, concern lacing his voice, "you've been distant. What's going on?" She looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. "I think I know who Liam Turner is," she admitted. Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Emily hesitated before answering. "Years ago, before we met, I made a mistake. A mistake I've tried to forget." Daniel sat beside her, his expression growing serious. "Emily, you need to tell me everything." She nodded, taking a deep breath. "When I was younger, I had a child. I was barely out of college, scared, and unprepared. My family didn't approve, and I gave him up for adoption." Daniel's eyes widened, but he didn't interrupt. "I tried to move on," Emily continued, her voice trembling. But when I saw Liam, there was something familiar. His eyes, his face. And then I looked into his mother, Sarah Turner. She wasn't always Sarah Turner, Daniel. She was Sarah Whitman. Realization dawned on Daniel's face. You think Liam is your son? Emily nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I need to know for sure. Meanwhile, Liam found himself wandering the streets of Midtown. His thoughts swirled with questions and half-formed theories. As he passed by the site of the fire, now cordoned off with caution tape, he stopped. The destruction was a stark reminder of that night and the Harpers. Why had Emily Harper been so insistent on visiting him? And why was his mother so on edge? There was a connection, he was sure of it. He took out his phone and typed Emily Harper's name into a search engine. Articles about her and Daniel surfaced quickly, detailing their philanthropic efforts and their work with local charities. One headline caught his attention: Emily Harper's silent struggle, overcoming a painful past. Clicking on it, Liam read an excerpt. Emily Harper has faced her share of challenges, including a decision in her early 20s that continues to shape her life. Sources close to the family have hinted at a private adoption during her college years, a topic Emily has never publicly addressed. Liam's heart pounded. Was it possible? Could Emily Harper be connected to him in a way he'd never imagined? Liam froze, his phone slipping slightly in his grasp. The sleek black car parked across the street stood out against the dim surroundings. Its windows were tinted, obscuring the occupants. But he could feel the weight of their gaze, steady and unrelenting. As he stared back, the engine revved softly, and the car began to move. It passed him slowly, almost deliberately, before disappearing into the night. Liam's heart raced. Coincidence? He doubted it. Determined, he headed home, clutching his phone like a lifeline. Questions swirled in his mind, crashing into each other, each more urgent than the last. If Emily Harper was his biological mother, why hadn't she said anything? Why had his own mother kept this a secret? At the Harper residence, Emily sat with Daniel in the study, papers spread out before them. The private investigator's report lay open on the desk, the details stark and undeniable. It's him, Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. Liam is my son. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. And Sarah? She was the one who adopted him. Emily nodded. She must have been. Sarah Whitman. She was the name listed in the closed adoption records. She's Liam's legal mother. Daniel frowned, his fingers drumming against the armrest. You realize this changes everything, right? If Liam finds out, I want him to find out, Emily interrupted, her voice trembling. I've spent years wondering if he was okay, if he was loved. And now I've seen him. He's brave, kind, everything I could have hoped for. I can't just walk away. But what about Sarah? Daniel asked carefully. She's the one who raised him. You can't just barge into their lives and... I know, Emily admitted, her eyes glistening with tears. I need to talk to her. I need to know how this happened. Why she never told him. Daniel sighed, pulling her into a gentle embrace. Then we'll figure it out. Together. At the Turner apartment, Sarah was still by the window, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as though trying to hold something in. She jumped slightly when the door opened, and Liam walked in, his face set in determination. Liam, where were you? She asked, her voice sharp with worry. Walking, he replied curtly, shrugging off his jacket. And thinking. Sarah hesitated, watching him warily. About what? About you. About Emily Harper, Liam said, his tone accusatory. And why you won't tell me what's going on? Sarah's breath hitched, and for a moment, she seemed on the verge of breaking. But she quickly regained her composure. I've already told you, Liam. There's nothing to tell. Stop lying to me. Liam snapped, slamming his hand on the counter. I know something's not right. I know you're hiding something, and I think it has to do with her. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. Mom, Liam pleaded, his voice softening. I need to know the truth. Please. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Finally, Sarah sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. "I never wanted this to happen," she whispered. "I never wanted you to get hurt." Liam sat across from her, his heart pounding. "Mom, please, just tell me." Sarah looked up at him, her eyes red and tired. "Liam, Emily Harper is your biological mother." The words hit him like a freight train. For a moment, Liam couldn't speak, couldn't move. He stared at Sarah, his mind racing to make sense of what he'd just heard. What he finally managed. Sarah reached for his hand, but he pulled away, standing abruptly. "I didn't mean to hide it from you," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought it was the best thing for you. I wanted to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Liam demanded, his voice rising. "From the truth." Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "From more heartbreak. I didn't think you needed to know." Liam backed away, shaking his head. "I can't believe this. My whole life. You've lied to me." "It wasn't a lie," Sarah said desperately. "You are my son, Liam. I've loved you every day of your life." "But she's my mother too," Liam said, his voice breaking. "Isn't she?" Sarah couldn't respond, and the silence that followed was deafening. Liam's hand hovered over the doorbell of the Harper residence, trembling with hesitation. He didn't know what he expected on the other side of the door. Answers, perhaps, or even more questions. The stately home loomed above him, its grandeur a stark contrast to the modest apartment he called home. Taking a deep breath, he pressed the bell. The chime echoed inside, its sound crisp and deliberate. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing Emily Harper. Her eyes widened in surprise, and then softened with an emotion Liam couldn't quite place. "Liam," she said softly, as if speaking his name aloud might shatter the fragile moment. "I need to talk to you," Liam said, his voice firm but shaky. "Can I come in?" Emily stepped aside, motioning for him to enter. The warmth of the house enveloped him, the scent of polished wood and faint lavender filling the air. Daniel appeared from the living room, his brow furrowing at the sight of Liam. "Liam," Daniel greeted cautiously. "Is everything okay?" "I need to know the truth," Liam said, his words directed at Emily. "About us." Emily's expression wavered, and she nodded toward the living room. "Come sit down," she said gently. As they settled into the plush couches, Emily clasped her hands tightly in her lap. Liam sat across from her, his arms crossed defensively, his eyes searching hers for answers. Daniel lingered by the doorway, a silent observer. "You know, don't you?" Emily asked softly. Liam nodded, his throat tightening. "My mom told me. You're my biological mother." Emily's eyes brimmed with tears, and she nodded. "Yes, I am." "Why didn't you say anything?" Liam demanded, his voice breaking. "Why did you just watch me and not tell me?" "I didn't know how," Emily admitted, her voice trembling. "When I saw you that night when you saved Noah, I couldn't believe it was you. I've spent years wondering about you, hoping you were okay. But I didn't want to disrupt your life." "You already did," Liam said bitterly. "By not telling me." Emily's tears spilled over, but she didn't look away. "I made mistakes, Liam. I was young, scared, and I thought giving you up was the best thing I could do for you. I wanted you to have a better life, with someone who could give you everything I couldn't." "My mom gave me everything," Liam snapped. "She's been there for me every day. She didn't give me away." Emily flinched at his words, and Daniel stepped forward, his hand on her shoulder. "Liam," Daniel began gently, "this isn't easy for anyone. Emily has spent years carrying this weight." "I don't care how hard it is for her," Liam said, standing abruptly. "She made her choice. She left me." "Liam, wait," Emily pleaded, standing as well. "Please, I need you to know that I've always loved you. I've thought about you every single day." Liam's chest tightened, anger and confusion battling inside him. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have given me up," he said, his voice cracking. Emily took a hesitant step toward him. "I thought I was doing what was right," she whispered. "But seeing you now, I know I made a mistake." Liam turned away, his hands trembling. He didn't know what to feel, what to say. His life had been turned upside down in the span of a single evening, and the weight of it was unbearable. Back at the Turner apartment, Sarah sat alone at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cold mug of coffee. The knock at the door startled her, and she rushed to answer it. When she opened it, she was met with Emily's tear-streaked face. "We need to talk," Emily said, her voice firm despite her evident distress. Sarah stepped aside reluctantly, letting her in. "What is there to talk about?" she asked, closing the door. "You've already disrupted everything." "I didn't mean to," Emily said, her hands clasped tightly. "But I need to understand, Sarah. Why didn't you ever tell Liam the truth?" Sarah sighed, sinking into a chair. "Because he's my son," she said, her voice shaking. "I raised him. I was there for every scraped knee, every bad day, every triumph. I didn't want him to feel like he wasn't enough for me." "And what about me?" Emily countered. "Didn't I deserve to know he was okay?" "You gave him up, Emily," Sarah said, her voice sharper now. "I didn't think you had a right to come back into his life and confuse him." "I didn't want to confuse him," Emily said, her tone softening. I needed to know he was happy." "He was happy," Sarah said firmly. "Until now." Liam's voice cut through the tense air like a knife. Sarah and Emily turned to face him, their eyes widening with guilt and alarm. He stood in the doorway, his fists clenched at his sides, his face a mixture of anger and betrayal. "Liam," Sarah started, taking a step toward him. "I was going to tell you everything." "When?" Liam snapped, his voice trembling. "When I was 30, 40? Never? You both lied to me, and now you're standing here, arguing about who gets to claim me." "Liam, it's not like that," Emily pleaded, her voice soft and desperate. "I only wanted—" "What?" Liam interrupted, his tone cutting. "To make yourself feel better? To show up after all these years and play mother?" Emily flinched, tears welling in her eyes. Sarah stepped closer, her hands outstretched. "Liam, please," she said. "You don't understand. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Liam demanded, his voice rising. "From the truth? From the fact that my whole life has been built on secrets." "From pain," Sarah said, her voice cracking. "I didn't want you to feel unwanted." Liam shook his head, his chest heaving. "Well, guess what? That's exactly how I feel now." The silence that followed was suffocating. Sarah's shoulders slumped, and Emily covered her face with trembling hands. Liam's breathing was uneven, his mind racing as he struggled to process everything. "I need to get out of here," he muttered, turning toward the door. "Liam, wait," Emily called after him. "Please don't go. Let us explain." But he didn't stop. He pushed the door open and stepped into the cool night air, letting it wash over him like a bomb. His feet carried him aimlessly down the dimly lit streets, his thoughts a chaotic whirl. Back inside the apartment, Sarah sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. Emily stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, her arms wrapped around herself. "This is your fault," Sarah said bitterly, her voice muffled. "You had no right to show up and blow up his life like this." "My fault," Emily replied, her tone defensive. "I wouldn't have had to if you'd told him the truth." Sarah dropped her hands, glaring at Emily through tear-streaked eyes. "You gave him up, Emily. You don't get to walk back in and pretend you're the victim here. And you think you're blameless?" Emily shot back. "You've been lying to him his whole life. Do you think that's love?" "He's my son," Sarah snapped, standing. "I've loved him every day, in ways you'll never understand." Emily's voice dropped, heavy with emotion. "He's my son too." Liam eventually found himself at the park, its playground deserted under the pale glow of the streetlights. He collapsed onto a bench, his head in his hands. The night was eerily quiet, the only sound the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. He thought about everything. His childhood, his mother's unwavering love, and now this revelation that upended everything he thought he knew. He couldn't reconcile the woman who had raised him with the lies she had kept. And Emily, what did she want from him? To absolve herself? To rewrite history? His phone buzzed in his pocket, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a text from Sarah. Liam, please come home. We need to talk. I love you. Always. He stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the screen. But he couldn't bring himself to respond. At the Harper residence, Emily sat in Noah's nursery, watching him sleep. Daniel entered quietly, his expression somber. "How did it go?" he asked. Emily shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Terribly. He hates me. He hates us." Daniel knelt beside her, placing a hand on her knee. "It's not hate, Emily. He's overwhelmed. You have to give him time. I don't know if he'll ever forgive me," she whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel sighed, pulling her into a gentle embrace. "You're his mother, Emily. He might not see it now, but he'll come around. You just have to be patient." Liam tensed at the sight of Emily. Her sudden appearance at the park felt intrusive, yet her expression, an aching mix of regret and determination, kept him rooted to the bench. She approached cautiously, as if afraid one wrong step might send him running. "I'm sorry," Emily began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know this isn't what you want, but I need you to know. I never stopped thinking about you." Liam's jaw tightened. "You say that like it makes any of this easier." Emily hesitated, her hands wringing together. "I don't expect it to. I want to explain." Liam gestured to the empty space on the bench, his movements stiff. "Fine. Explain." Emily sat, her gaze fixed on the ground. For a moment, the only sound was the distant hum of traffic. "I was 20 when I had you," she began, her voice trembling. "I was scared and alone. My family, they weren't supportive. They thought I'd ruin my future if I kept you. And I believed them." Liam's hands balled into fists. "So you just gave me up?" "I thought I was doing what was best for you," Emily said, her voice cracking. "I thought you deserved a life I couldn't give. When Sarah adopted you, I believed you'd be safe, loved." "I was loved," Liam snapped. "But now, I don't know what to believe anymore." Emily turned to him, her eyes glistening with tears. "I made a mistake, Liam. I see that now. But please, don't think I didn't love you. Giving you up was the hardest thing I've ever done." Liam stared at her, his chest heaving with the weight of her words. "Why now?" he demanded. "Why wait until my life was normal, happy? To come back and destroy it?" Emily winced, but she didn't look away. "I didn't mean to. When you saved Noah, when I saw you, I couldn't stay away. I needed to know you were okay." Liam shook his head, his frustration boiling over. "I don't know what you want from me. Forgiveness? A relationship? What?" Emily's tears spilled over, but her voice remained steady. "I just want you to know the truth. What you do with it is up to you." Back at the Turner apartment, Sarah paced anxiously, her phone clutched in her hand. She had texted Liam 3 more times with no response. Each unanswered message twisted the knot of guilt in her chest tighter. When the knock came at the door, she rushed to answer it, hoping to see Liam. Instead, Daniel stood on the threshold, his expression somber but composed. "Sarah," he said, "we need to talk." She stepped aside, allowing him in. "If this is about Emily, it's about Liam," Daniel interrupted. "And how we move forward." Sarah crossed her arms defensively. "Move forward? What does that even mean? He's my son." "He's Emily's son, too," Daniel said gently. "I know this is hard for you, but Liam has a right to know both sides of his story." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "I gave him stability, love. You think I didn't tell him for a reason? I was protecting him." "I believe you did what you thought was best," Daniel replied. "But Liam's not a child anymore. He deserves the truth, even if it hurts." At the park, Liam sat in silence, Emily's words replaying in his mind. He didn't know how to feel. Angry, sad, confused. All of it swirled inside him like a storm. "I don't know if I can forgive you," he admitted finally. Emily nodded, her tears glinting in the pale light. "I understand. But I hope one day you'll let me try to be part of your life. I'll do whatever it takes." Liam stared at her, searching for something in her face. Sincerity, remorse, or maybe just a shred of the truth he had longed for. He found all 3. "I need time," he said, standing abruptly. Emily didn't try to stop him. "Take all the time you need," she said softly. "I'll be here." Liam stared at the glowing screen of his phone, the cryptic message from the unknown number sending a chill down his spine. His thumb hovered over the call button, but his mind raced with questions. Who was this? And what could they possibly know about Emily that he didn't? Curiosity won out. With a deep breath, he pressed the button and brought the phone to his ear. The line clicked, and a gravelly voice answered almost immediately. "Liam Turner?" the voice asked, low and steady. "Who is this?" Liam replied, his grip tightening on the phone. "That's not important right now," the voice said. "What matters is what Emily Harper hasn't told you." Liam's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" The voice hesitated for a moment before continuing. "You're her son, yes, but there's more to the story. Emily didn't just give you up out of fear. There were circumstances." "What circumstances?" Liam demanded, his voice rising. "Stop being vague." "Her family," the voice replied. "They forced her to give you up, threatened her. They didn't want her mistake, tarnishing their reputation." Liam stumbled to a stop, the weight of the words hitting him like a blow. "She didn't tell me that." "Of course she didn't," the voice said with a bitter edge. "But you deserved to know." Before Liam could respond, the line went dead. Back at the Turner apartment, Sarah sat by the window, anxiously waiting for Liam to return. When the door finally opened, her heart leapt, but the look on Liam's face made her stomach drop. "We need to talk," he said, his voice cold. "Liam, Sarah started, but he cut her off. "I got a call," he said, holding up his phone. "Someone told me Emily was forced to give me up, that her family made her do it. Is that true?" Sarah froze, her silence giving Liam all the confirmation he needed. "You knew," he said, his voice breaking. "You knew this whole time, and you let me believe she didn't want me." "I didn't want to burden you with that," Sarah said quickly. "You were happy, Liam. I didn't want to drag you into her family's mess. But it wasn't your decision to make." Liam shouted, his anger boiling over. "You kept this from me, just like you kept her from me." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "I was trying to protect you," she said softly. "I thought I was doing what was best." "Maybe you should have let me decide what was best," Liam said, his voice quieter now but still trembling with emotion. Meanwhile, at the Harper residence, Emily sat in her study, staring at an old photograph of herself holding a newborn Liam. The picture, worn from years of handling, brought back a flood of memories, both joyful and painful. Daniel entered, his brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" he asked, taking a seat beside her. "I think Liam might never forgive me," Emily said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "You don't know that," Daniel reassured her. "You've done everything you can to be honest with him." "But I haven't," Emily admitted, her voice cracking. "I haven't told him the full truth about why I gave him up." Daniel's expression darkened. "Do you think he'll understand?" "I don't know," Emily whispered, "but I have to try." Liam paced his room that night, his emotions a tangled web of anger, confusion, and pain. He thought about Emily's tearful confession, the way she'd looked at him in the park, and now this new piece of information. Could it be true? Had she really been forced to give him up? Determined to get answers, Liam made a decision. He grabbed his phone and texted Emily. "We need to talk. Now." Emily Harper stood at her front door, her hands trembling as she met Liam's gaze. His face was pale, his jaw set with determination, but his eyes, her eyes, betrayed the storm of emotions swirling within him. "Come in," Emily said softly, stepping aside. Liam entered, his movements stiff and guarded. The warmth of the Harper home contrasted sharply with the cold tension between them. Emily led him to the living room, where Daniel sat waiting, his expression a mix of concern and quiet support. "I'm here for one reason," Liam began, his voice firm. "Someone called me. They said your family forced you to give me up. Is that true?" Emily sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's true." Liam's breath hitched, his hands balling into fists. "Why didn't you tell me? You've been apologizing, saying it was your choice, but it wasn't, was it?" Emily looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. It felt like my choice at the time, she said. But I was wrong. My parents, they gave me an ultimatum. If I kept you, they'd disown me. I was young, Liam. I didn't know how to fight them. I thought I was doing what was best for you. Liam laughed bitterly, pacing the room. You thought abandoning me was best? How am I supposed to believe that? It wasn't abandonment, Emily said, her voice breaking. I chose Sarah because I wanted you to have a better life. I wanted you to be loved. And she gave you that, didn't she? Liam stopped pacing, his chest heaving with emotion. Yeah, she did. But you don't get to take credit for that. She's the one who raised me, who stayed. You just left. Emily stood, her tears falling freely now. I know I failed you, Liam. I can never undo that. But I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. Daniel spoke up then, his voice calm but firm. Emily's telling the truth, Liam. She's carried this guilt for years. She's not asking for forgiveness. She's asking for a chance to be part of your life, if you'll let her. Liam's gaze flicked between them, the weight of their words pressing down on him. I don't know if I can do that, he said finally. You've had years to figure this out, but I've had days. I'm not ready. Emily nodded, her tears falling silently. I understand. Take all the time you need. Just please know that my door is always open. That night, Liam returned to the Turner apartment. Sarah was waiting for him, her face lined with worry and fatigue. When he walked in, she rose to meet him, unsure whether to hug him or give him space. I went to see her, Liam said, his voice flat. Sarah swallowed hard. What did she say? She told me the truth, he replied, his tone sharper. The truth you both kept from me. I was trying to protect you, Sarah said quietly. I didn't want you to feel like a burden, like you weren't wanted. I was never unwanted, Liam said firmly. But I needed to know who I am. You both robbed me of that. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she reached for his hand. I'm sorry, Liam. I know I made mistakes, but everything I did was out of love. Liam hesitated, his anger and love for his mother warring within him. Finally, he let her take his hand. I just need time, he said softly. Sarah nodded, tears spilling over. Take all the time you need. Weeks passed, and life began to settle into an uneasy rhythm. Liam divided his time between school, work, and the quiet reflection of someone grappling with newfound truths. Emily sent him occasional messages, short, unobtrusive notes that asked how he was doing but never pushed for more. One afternoon, as Liam walked home from school, he noticed a familiar figure standing by the playground where he often sat to think. Emily held Noah in her arms, her face lighting up when she saw him. I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me, she said as he approached. I'm still figuring that out, Liam admitted. He glanced at Noah, who babbled happily in her arms. But I guess it wouldn't hurt to try. Emily's smile wavered, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you, she said softly. That's all I've ever wanted. Epilogue months later, Liam sat at a small cafe, a cup of coffee cooling in his hands. Across from him sat Emily, her hands clasped tightly around her own mug. Their conversations had grown easier, their meetings more frequent, though the wounds between them still needed time to heal. Sarah joined them occasionally, and though the interactions were tentative, there was a mutual understanding, a shared love for the boy who connected them. Liam still didn't have all the answers, but he was learning to live with the questions. In time, he realized he could embrace both women as part of his story. A story of loss, love, and the courage to rebuild. For now, that was enough.